Welcome to the Monster Report, a show highlighting those entertaining creatures of film history. I'm your host, Nick Adam Poling, and today we have some special guests here to talk to us about something that's been on our minds probably as kaiju fans recently is King Kong, everything that leads up to the premiere of Skull Island that's coming up here soon as to the time of this taping. I have with me here Mr. Kyle Bird.
Hello.
Yep. And Matt Parmley,
Good
correct?
To be here.
Yep.
Yeah, you got it right. Yeah.
All right, excellent. And you guys have the Kaiju Transmissions podcast that you've been doing some really great work with King Kong, talking about everything from 33 up to the where we are now, of course, and giving us some. I was listening to your 33 episode and the 76 episode, and there's just tons of information. And what's cool is that you can just you can listen to not just a review of those films, but some history and backstory, which I really appreciate. And how exhausting is that for you to do all that work?
Well, not to sound, because I'm definitely not an expert. I just happen to retain a lot of this information because, like you guys, I've been consuming these movies since I was in second grade, and while everyone else was reading, like a Sports Illustrated or whatever, I was reading, the books by like Ed Gees and the Stuart Galbraiths, and it's if only I could dedicate my time to researching things that were like more productive, but it's just my hobby is watching and researching monster movies, I guess. So the only one that I really needed to like keep notes and like refer to constantly was the 76 one because really just the legal battle. Because the Kong 76 was batted back and forth between Universal and Paramount so many times, and that was just such a convoluted and troubled production. But everything else is just kind of stuff that I just, kind of collect from just years and years of being a fan. I think a lot of people are like that. And Matt, Matt's like, I don't want to say he's new, but there's a lot of stuff that he hasn't watched. He's kind of one of those guys that was always like, well, I've seen all the Godzilla and Gamera's.
Yeah, that's
that's true. Which is, I think, part of the reason why he wanted to do this podcast was to kind of, because the idea was all him. So I think it was just he kind of wanted to see what else was out there, and yeah.
Yeah. Now,
yeah, you're usually getting. Go ahead, sorry.
Okay, I was just going to ask a general question to either one of you on the subject of King Kong. Of course, we are kaiju fans, Japanese tokusatsu films, probably about anything that comes out of Japan that's monster-related was first in our collection. And here is King Kong, an American creature. Tell me what it is that's enduring or long-lasting, timeless about this character, King Kong.
At least for me, it's where everything started. The Godzilla wouldn't be around if not for King Kong. Obviously, Eiji Tsuburaya had such a profound impact on him that he wanted to make his own monster movie. And then with the re-release in Japan, that kind of gave birth to, obviously, you had the Kong film, then you had the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, and then with the Lucky Dragon incident, that's kind of what gave rise to Godzilla, which then obviously became all like the offshoots like Gamera and Ultraman and all the stuff that we have now. But that all started with Kong. And I think one of the cool things about the monster himself is Skull Island. There's so much going on in the first film with that island, with all the creatures, and plus the special effects work is absolutely, today, to me, it's still incredible. And the fact that it looks as good as it does now, and the film was made, we're talking almost 80 years ago, I guess. So it's just a masterpiece of filmmaking. And I think it did a lot for sound and lighting. Bird can probably talk about that, how it impacted a lot of modern film stuff. But
everything. I mean, it's the first movie of its kind, really. And I mean, that goes beyond just its impact on Tsuburaya, which, I mean, that was the movie that made him want to do effects. And, you know, the stop motion stuff of Willis O'Brien, not just in Kong, but, you know, Mighty Joe Young, that was all stuff that was very important to him. And the thing is, with all that being said, it was just the first really... It was the first adventure movie of that scale, the first monster movie of that scale. The only thing comparable we had was The Lost World in 1925, the silent movie, which Willis O'Brien had also done the dinosaur effects for. But it was Kong that, I mean, it really just changed everything. I mean, nobody had seen effects that meticulously crafted and that intricate and that complicated before that. And I mean, even with sound, I mean, it was the first, Max Steiner's score was the first score that, because you have to remember, this is in the early days of sound movies, so that score was like the first score that really complemented the action on screen. You know, once talking pictures happened, you know, the score was pretty much limited to beginning and end credits. You know, it was the first movie that recorded sound effects on its own strip of film. So, I mean, these are techniques that revolutionized filmmaking. And getting back to the effects side, I mean, without Willis O'Brien, you don't have Ray Harryhausen. Without Ray Harryhausen, you don't have Spielberg, Lucas, Peter Jackson. You don't have Weta. You don't have ILM. So, I mean, it's like Matt said, it's really the grandfather of not only the giant monster movie, but really just the big special effects spectacle.
That's something I was going to approach, and I've told a lot of people about this, that the significance of King Kong right into the era where sound movies were becoming a thing, because, you know, there still were people clinging to the silent era, and here's this new idea. We're going to put sound in movies, and some people were kind of resistant even to that, no, it'll never catch on. And then not only was this film trying to do the great work with sound and score, but the visual effects, they wanted to make it a spectacle. So I would argue, like you said, that the idea of a spectacle movie, would we have had maybe, you know, 1939 Wizard of Oz doing what it did to wow audiences with what it did in the department of color, visual effects, just a little bit of everything, and that becomes, of course, a timeless classic as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a game changer that influenced other game changers, you know, and I mean, that keeps going on until you get to, you know, the Star Wars and Jaws stuff. Another thing is, I mean, I guess the initial question was kind of like, what is it about King Kong as a story or a character, or just what that 33 movie, why is it so enduring? But, I mean, to put it in the context of the time, you also have to remember that it was, I mean, this is like the middle of the Great Depression, you know, so it was really, it got Americans out of their house, and they literally experienced something that they had never experienced before in a movie theater, you know, and, I mean, and that is something that stuck with so many people, so many young kids. I mean, that's Ray Harryhausen and Eiji Tsuburaya, two completely different parts of the world, you know, as young people got to see this movie and obsess over it into adulthood, to where they would influence the genre filmmakers of their respective countries to an immense degree, you know. And I mean, the amount of influence that movie has on everybody is immeasurable. And I mean, it's an American classic, and I mean, I don't think people forget that. Like, I mean, I'm a big horror guy, and I was just listening to a podcast with Rob Zombie. Like, what was the first horror monster movie you saw as a kid? He said the original King Kong, you know, and that was mean, when he was a kid, that was probably the 70s or something. I mean, it's something that still wows people to this day.
Yeah, good point. And what I was going to also ask about when it comes to the fact that we are, really um, just still wowed by a film, like you said, 80 plus years old, 1933. What is it you may say to somebody who, might be a younger person, they watch the classic stop motion visual effects, and they're just not getting it. They're just, whether they're saying, oh gosh, it's black and white, so automatically I don't like it. It's not CGI, so I automatically don't like it. What do you say to maybe somebody who comes up with these kinds of arguments?
Well, Matt, you have a kid. That's a conversation you might actually have in a couple of years.
Yeah.
How would you approach that?
Man, I think for a lot of people, the dismissive. Well, here's a good example. You see this a lot with Godzilla fans who don't want to go outside of Godzilla, period. And it's like a stubbornness. They don't want to look at Gamera. They don't want to look at Ultraman. Not even realizing that some of the same people that made Godzilla created Ultraman. I think the dismissiveness that you have with people, especially with something like King Kong, oh, it's in black and white, it's not up to my standards. I think that's almost like an immaturity to look kind of beyond the stuff that like instantly gratifies now. So like if you think about Michael Bay films, there are a bunch of explosions with Razzie special effects, but there's no heart behind that story. There's no soul there. And when you watch a movie like King Kong, like you have an actual story with well-written characters. It's more than just a spectacle of Kong. There's other things around it that make it kind of the whole package. The score is fantastic. I mean, that's another thing about the film that kind of draws you in, like the big booming sound, the theme. I mean, like most people, if you are a Kong fan, when that song comes on during the 2005 film, like you instantly know that song. Like, oh, hey, they're playing the Kong theme. So it's a combination of looking for more than just the effects. It's looking at the story and how things are presented and how well written the characters are. And to me, like it builds this huge, massive world. Especially once you get to Skull Island. I mean, that Skull Island has so much depth. Like you get the Stegosaurus, you get the Brontosaurus, you get obviously the T-Rex fight, but there's all these different creatures and all these different things going on. And once you get to Skull Island, like it's nonstop action. There are very few movies that can sustain that. And the stuff now, like that's all just kind of CG. I mean, I don't know. For me, I've always found a charm in practical. Like, and if you watched, we recently talked about, Mighty Joe Young. The 98 remake of Mighty Joe Young has some of the best practical effects I can remember, and they still look great. And that movie is almost 20 years old. Rick Baker's work on the suit. I think he made multiple props and suits and things, but that looks realistic. But if you make that all CG, I don't think the realism is still there. And I think the movie, looking back on it, would probably be kind of, honestly, crappy in quality.
I think the best approach to take with a youngster, so to say, it is having them watch it. I mean, for example, like I remember in film class, like our professor saying, "How many people here would like to watch a subtitled film today?" And like me and like 4 other people raised their hands, and he's like, "Well, we're gonna watch one anyway, and then after like the first 5 minutes, you won't even remember that you're reading them." And then afterwards, he was like, "Well, that wasn't so bad, was it?" And everyone was like, "Oh, no, that was actually not too hard at all." So I think, like Matt said, there's an immaturity there, and I think their brain just needs to like get that extra push. And I think sometimes you just got to throw them in and be like, "Here, watch it." And I mean, if it's someone really young, I mean, maybe pause it every few minutes to explain just culturally, historically, what was going on at the time. That if you in 1933, you didn't see movies that had effects like that. That tell them like without that stop motion stuff, Steven Spielberg. You wouldn't have wanted to make Jurassic Park. I mean, there's ways to engage a younger person, and I think older people. I mean, like I think we're all probably in our 30s, but
yeah.
Like once you get to our age, you start to kind of be very dismissive of that, and it's like no, they just need to look at it from a different angle. I mean, even I mean, the movie's 80 years old, so there are going to be things in there that's a modern viewer is going to be like, that's a little odd. Like, for example, like the gender roles, you know, definitely not PC by our standards. Even some of the racial caricatures, but you know, you really just have to put it in the right historical context and have them watch it. That would be what I would say to that person is, you know what, just watch it. If you still have that opinion afterwards, sure, fine, fair enough. But watch it first. And with a movie as good as King Kong, if they're actually willing to get over that stubbornness, sit down and watch it, I would be amazed if they didn't come out like saying like, oh, well, that was lame, that was stupid. Because, I mean, it's a movie that I mean, it's a classic for a reason, because it has been able to entertain people of all ages for all these decades. So I would be very surprised if that kid didn't come out impressed.
Yeah, absolutely. And something, Matt, you said earlier about, you know, the characters really that drives the story. If you take Kong out of it and Skull Island out of it, well, you'd better have some really good characters, because location's one thing, the monster's one thing, but if you have characters that really draw you in, you know, your story can be about almost anything. And I'll take my youngsters into the equation. Actually, my oldest is 5, but I have a 3-year-old son who loves King Kong. It doesn't matter what film. He could watch every morning. It's almost, he wakes up, good morning, Daddy. I want to watch Gorosaurus, which he means King Kong Escapes. You know, I want to watch the Giant Octopus. He means King Kong versus Godzilla. You know,
smart kid you got.
He just loves King Kong. He can't get enough of the stuff. It doesn't matter if it's Suitimation with, you know, Tsuburaya visual effects, or it's Willis O'Brien stop motion. I haven't really shown them the 76 film. I think it's a bit violent, or the Peter Jackson film. Still a little violent, you know, for a 3-year-old. Years from now, you know, we'll watch these films, of course, and they won't even seem violent by that standard, you know, by the time he's in his teens. You know, even looking at the 33 film, goodness, that must have seemed very graphically violent to see him breaking the jaw of the T-Rex. But today, I mean, probably rated G.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny you mentioned that, because for a long time, I think up through when home video became a thing, I think that the T-Rex jaw breaking was always there, but there were a lot of shots that were cut out, like when he's putting the natives in his mouth and when he's stomping on them. Those scenes were lost for a few decades, and then, you know, restored once it came to home video. So
right. Yeah, there was some censorship, some controversy, surrounding that. I think back to the original Frankenstein, taking out certain lines that were controversial for the time too, that get restored back in there, and that's always kind of neat to hear those stories too about the completed version. The what's cool about this is there were so many drafts of these stories, and not just the 33 film. Probably almost every Kong film has gone through so many revisions that it's like we could make
say that again.
Yeah, we could make so many new movies just from the revisions and ideas that got thrown in the garbage can. So, you know, like the King Kong Frankenstein, you know, film that could have been made, and you know, and even the film Creation that never got made, you know, that ended up kind of going into King Kong. If you were to, and we'll get to Skull Island in a minute, I don't want to push that too far down, but if you were to say there are some key ingredients that makes a King Kong movie, that it's got to be in there, whether you make him a lovable character or the villain or somewhere in between, what are some of those key ingredients that make for a King Kong movie?
Brett, I'm going to let you go first on this one. I'm kind of curious what you'll say. See if we have anything.
Well, I'll kind of answer that in two parts. If we are going to Skull Island or Faroe Island or Mondo Island, wherever he's living at the moment. We need a lot of Kong fighting other creatures. We need the island to feel dangerous, first of all. I mean, one of my issues with the 76 movie is that they go to Skull Island, and aside from the natives and a giant snake that he messes around with for like 20 seconds, there's no other creatures, nothing at all. And for all the issues that it does have, the Peter Jackson movie did make Skull Island feel like a dangerous place where anywhere you turn, there could be something else that wants to kill you. So that, first of all, even if it's just like extended battle like Kong versus Gorosaurus and King Kong Escapes, you need the island to have exotic creatures that will engage in some kind of really cool, really entertaining fight. If not, like if like King Kong versus Godzilla, you even have the octopus.
Yeah.
I mean, and if not, if you're not just doing a remake of the King Kong story, you need to have something. He can't just be a non-entity, you know. I mean, I think the story with how he tries and ultimately fails to connect to mankind is important also. That's not to say that he needs to have the attractive blonde love interest, because he doesn't. But he does need to have some kind of, he needs to feel like he's out of his element. And he needs to feel dangerous. He needs to feel fierce, but he also needs to be sympathetic. From King Kong Escapes onward, they pretty much kind of got hooked on he needs to have this love interest that feels bad for him all the time. But people forget that in 33, Fay Wray's version of Anne did not care for him. But what makes him still so sympathetic and makes the audience care in the end is he was so well-rounded through Willis O'Brien's animation. You know, you saw him get confused, you saw him get quizzical, you saw him get angry, and I mean, that's what Kong needs. He needs a personality. He needs to be you can't just have him be the dangerous god of Skull Island and just this puppy dog animal out of its place. It needs to, you need to have a nice combination of both. I don't think you should go too much one way or the other. So that's what I would expect. Matt, what are your standards?
Dude, you nailed it. Like, I think the big thing is a balance between Kong being sympathetic, but also being extremely ferocious when he needs to be. And you're right. The original film, Anne, she wants nothing to do with Kong the entire movie. Like, even when he's getting shot, she doesn't care. Like, she's just trying to get out of there. Every film after that, the love interest, or the female interest, I guess, they played that up as being more of a, I have this thing for Kong, or I'm sympathetic towards Kong, or he's just this big dumb animal that I'm, that he's going to protect me, and I'm going to try to help him out at the same time. And it's just, to me, I would actually much rather see the first version of Kong, where he's sympathetic, but he's terrifying. That's what made the first movie kind of stand out. But like King Kong Escapes is actually probably my second favorite Kong film, mainly because, as you guys talked about, the fight with Gorosaurus. I love that fight. It's actually one of my favorite fights. And then you talked about Skull Island. I mean, the 76 film, it does not feel dangerous. Like, when they get to Skull Island, you see this big wall. There's this massive buildup once they actually get behind the wall. And then, nothing happens. He bathes the girl in a waterfall and he dries her off by breathing on her. That's kind of the extent of Skull Island. There's no danger there. There's no mystery. It's just, I don't know. To me, it feels like a loss of something. So I do feel like having Kong out of his element is really important as well. He doesn't belong here. He's either out of, when you remove him from his element, that's when things go bad. And so that's kind of one of the things that I would definitely want to see Skull Island do, since we're talking about that a little bit.
Okay, and yeah, you're out of both kind of mentioned that he's out of his element, and really, it comes down to the fact of um, almost every one of the films, actually all of the films, I would say up to this point, someone has tried to do that. They want to take him out of his element to exploit him in one way or the other, whether it's obviously put him on stage and he can't be held by the shackles. Have him dig up Element X by Doctor Who. That's it's not going to work in your favor. he's going to prove you wrong. Mr. Taco trying to take him and make him a publicity stunt for the pharmaceutical company. Whatever it is, everyone tries to exploit him by getting him off of his island.
Even like King Kong Lives, they want to bring him back to life with the mechanical heart, which A, is just a really stupid idea for a movie anyway, but B, why? Why, like, and I don't know any spoilers or anything, but from what they've shown of Skull Island, I'm not sure if he is going to leave Skull Island, but it definitely looks like the conflict still is just from people coming there and not leaving him alone. So, that's the whole point of King Kong is leave this thing alone.
And I want to
not doing anything to anybody.
Yeah, I want to say something about King Kong Lives that I was even mentioning to my wife, explaining this story that's so bizarre.
It really is.
He dies in the last film. We're assuming that he dies. Of course, you can't keep a good monster down. There's always going to be a way we can bring him back to life, whether it's Godzilla or any other monster. Or even Jason Voorhees. He always seems to be coming back to life, no matter how you kill him. In King Kong's Lives, is that they spent all these millions of dollars. They built this artificial heart. They've sucked dry basically the female Kong for her blood, so they can transfusion him back to life with this artificial heart. And then all these medical professionals standing on top of him as that heart is being lowered down in him, in the cavity in his chest. And not one of them, as intelligent as they are to build this, looks at each other. And one of them speaks up and says, "Hang on, why are we doing this again? Did we think this through?"
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
No, that's one of the craziest plots for that's like the weirdest possible plot to a King Kong movie imaginable.
Yeah.
I do love that movie though. Like I mean it's not good. It's just a nostalgic love that I have for it. But it's terrible. Like the redneck characters that are like drinking as they're going out in the bayou and shooting stuff in the air. Like it's just
if the whole movie was stuff like that, I could get behind it.
Right, and honestly, that scene's that's kind of frightening, that scene. And there's even the one guy who's just like, "I'm not so sure I want to do this. I don't think this is going to end well for us." And even he still doesn't end up, even as he was wishy-washy on this whole idea of what they were going to do to Kong, which I still don't get their end goal in this. They were going to bury him, and then what happens?
Yeah.
What?
I guess they thought he was big game or something. I don't know.
Well,
and they're like torturing him with like torches on his face, and
yeah,
man, that's got to be some of like the most brutal killings by Kong, like breaking a dude in half and biting off his head, and like picking the little hat out of his teeth.
Yeah,
yeah. That movie has like a weird like 80s sleaze to it that makes it more watchable than the 76 movie, I think.
76 to me is just it drags. It's like over 2 hours long, and for what reason? Like what happens in that film that makes it? I mean, like they take a segment of that movie and dedicate it to a bar scene so that people can drink during the Kong attack.
Right.
In the city. Like, what's going on here?
Not just people, that's the main characters.
Yeah, no. I will only in a very limited fashion come to the defense of the 76 film, because I actually still enjoy watching it to a point. It is long, I'll give you that. There's a ton of emptiness and a ton of problems with it. I love the music. It's fantastic.
Oh,
Yeah.
that score is fantastic.
Was it John Barry? Is that who
Yep.
did the score?
Yeah.
Yeah, I even have
The
it.
score is good.
Yeah, I even have the vinyl album, which has this cool, poster, the great artwork, actually, that you see of Kong breaking through the wall, which the poster of that looks better than it ended up in film, of course. But I will say this, the idea we're in 1976, if we're going to go with this idea of an adventurer, the Denim character, going to the island to film in exotic locations, that idea was something that would have worked in 1933, and it did. This idea of adventure and taking the camera there to capture it, because we really can't make this happen any other ways. Here is 1976. That idea, it may not work unless you make like Peter Jackson did. So the idea that maybe an oil company, a greedy oil company, might be looking for these locations that have been, been unsearchable for years because of a layer of fog, I guess. That maybe they could tap into some oil reserve. I kind of get behind that idea, except for the fact that, it doesn't end up paying off for any one of them, of course, because the oil is unusable. They're going to make Kong a spectacle by exploiting him again. That doesn't even work, because they can't even build a cage that's strong enough to hold him. And so I guess it does come down to there's this, idea of humanity at its worst and its finest, because you always have a good hero character that's against this idea. And I do like Bridges' character trying to do what he can. I think he's, got the environmental message in there. That's was kind of timely for that film. But yeah, does it hold up today? Not really. Yeah, it's not one like 1933 that's just timeless. I'll agree with that, definitely.
Yeah.
You mentioned the posters. So Bob Eggleton actually posted on his Facebook. I guess John Berkey did the original artwork for that.
Oh.
I didn't know this, but did you know they basically took one of the faces for like his original painting and they plastered it on like all of the different posters to make the face look the exact same in all the artwork?
Really?
For basically no reason. Yeah, there's a I think it's kongisking.net or something has a great article on it, and they show you like the original artwork, because all this stuff came to light I think fairly recently, like in the past, I don't know, like 10 years or something, where they found the original artwork and then they found what they did afterwards, where they basically like changed the face. He had spent like 2 weeks making all these deadlines for like 5 different paintings, and then they went behind him after the fact and then changed the face on it. Like, how mad would you be if that's what happened to your artwork? I couldn't imagine working on a movie and that like happening after the fact.
And
It doesn't even make any sense.
yeah,
It doesn't make any sense. I think the argument was something about they were worried that people wouldn't understand that it was the same monster in the movie or something, or I don't know. It was so convoluted that it didn't make sense. But I just figured that out.
Just like everything about the making of that movie.
Well, yeah. And that artwork, that Kong doesn't even look like, even closely resemble the Kong we got in the movie. His hair is kind of wild and crazy, it does not look like him. And then on top of that, they try to, make his sheer size, something that's even more unbelievable by having in one of the posters him actually with one leg on both of the towers of the World Trade Center. I'm like, no, he does jump from one to the other, but
from tower to tower, yeah.
Yeah, they actually changed that too. That was one of the things in the article. Like originally that painting had a shadow underneath his foot, and they wanted that taken out so it could look like, I guess, he was on both buildings. Like, just kind of bizarre stuff.
Yeah.
But hey, Japan made 2 video games out of it, so.
Well, they did, yeah. Yeah, there's a few things that came out of that film, but a lot of controversy, a lot of stories, and a TV version that we haven't got on DVD or Blu-ray yet, and there's no really a Blu-ray out on this film either, and honestly, the DVD copy...
I feel like they would be putting that out right now, with Skull Island coming out.
Well, hey, they're putting out Ape. So,
Yay! Great.
Woohoo!
have you seen Ape, Nick?
I have Ape. I haven't watched it. It's back there somewhere. But
Oh,
no.
man. No, listen.
Godspeed.
Before you watch Skull Island, you have to go watch Ape.
Do
And
I?
Let us know what you think.
Mighty Peking Man is
Mighty Peaky Man is awesome.
Yeah, that's the good one.
That
Which
is
has
good.
a lot of the Toho guys did the effects for it. It's a Hong Kong kind of rip-off of that came out in the 70s to cash in on the Kong 76. But
Okay.
Japanese effects artists like I was Nakano and Murase and Kawakita. And it's just a fun movie.
Really? I've
yeah.
not watched it. Did you ever see the what's the 1970? I can't remember what year. Conga, might be 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate that movie. I don't hate it. I hate the ending. The last 10 minutes of it, like, basically the movie up until that point is like a murder mystery. It's like the Edgar Allan Poe story about the gorilla killing people. If you've read that book,
Murders in the Room.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden at the end, obviously Kong gets huge, but then like stands there for 10 minutes and does nothing.
Yeah, the finale is pretty unexciting, but it's exactly the kind of like cheap, dumb B movie that I like. Like, and Michael Goff is just like
Yeah, he is
Treating-
awesome in that movie.
he's treating it like he's in like a real movie.
Yeah, that's Alfred the Butler there. Yeah, he had a very controversial past before he started working for Batman. But
Right.
yeah, that's another one that's good for laughs, good to put on. When you want to kind of put your mind to the side, I guess.
Mhm.
But now, if we could switch things over to Skull Island, which we only really have trailers, posters, and some rumors out there. What do you think so far? Or have you been trying to stay clear of the trailers? I should have asked that.
I've seen all the trailers, the TV spot. Like usually, like the two like big theatrical trailers a movie gets. Like that's when I'll watch. But then when it's like here's another TV spot, and here's another one. Here's a clip. Here's another TV spot. That's what the stuff I give me the two trailers. I'm fine. After that, I'm on a blackout. The trailers, though, I've really liked. I mean, the wild card in there is the comic relief stuff with John C. Reilly, which can go either way.
Yeah.
I think all the Kong stuff and all the stuff with the monsters looks really fun. And, I mean, at the very least, I mean, even if it's got thin characters but a lot of really good Kong action, I mean, that's all it'll take to satisfy me. I mean, it might not be one of my favorite things ever, but I mean, I'll walk out feeling fulfilled. If anybody out there is on Facebook a lot, please be careful because there are legitimate news sources with headlines saying like blank and blank in Kong post-credit scene, and it's like, why?
Yeah, I had that ruined for me too. Yeah.
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 And I'm the same way. I'm kind of on a blackout. I want to go in not really knowing much about the film or after the two trailers, which look great. I mean, it looks like just a really blast of a movie. But yeah, I mean, we know there's a post-credit scene, and I would have rather not know much about it. To be honest with you, just to keep, I mean, I have an expectation what I think is going to be in it, but to find out what it was and to have it kind of ruined just because people are dumb on social media. It was like in the headlines. I mean, it's just you can't escape it once you see it. And I think that happened to both me, Bird, Tom, and actually Eric. It happened to all of us. So that was kind of unfortunate, but I guess it comes with the territory in social media. Like you can't just either you're going to log out of Facebook for 2 weeks or you're going to be on Facebook and possibly have something ruined.
Yeah.
Confirmed. Bruce Willis playing Ghost in new M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Yeah. I say this about, the internet and modern movies. It both helps and hinders the experience because, one, you have the spoilers and how much, the movie company, whatever the production house is trying to do the best with keeping things secret. And even then, there are leaks. And some of us who are out here like, no spoilers. And then there's the person over there in the corner who says, oh, I heard such and such dies in that movie, and I'm saying, oh, stop.
It's even worse with TV. Try being a Game of Thrones fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Yeah, but I guess on the one side of things, I would say that that does present a challenge for filmmakers to do some things, maybe even try to muddy the waters in the social media just a little bit. I go back, actually, before the internet to the story about George Lucas and the line that was delivered to Mark Hamill with, Darth Vader standing there over him, and the line that was delivered was, Obi-Wan killed your father, and it was, no, that's not true, and even the cast up to that point until the premiere didn't realize that the line was, I am your father. And so to keep things secret and maybe even throw a wrench in there for the people who say, oh, I've got the scoop on this one, that, no, you were wrong, and you got into the theater and you found out something different. I think that presents a challenge to them, and sometimes we could still be surprised as a result. But yeah, overall, I say the internet kind of ruins some things for us.
I do have to say, with the recent Star Wars movies, I'm very surprised how little they let out. Like,
Yeah, that was impressive, actually.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people give J.J. Abrams a hard time for this, but what's I guess now called like the mystery box form of marketing, where you look at something like Cloverfield, even to bring it into the giant monster realm, is keeping everything out of the spotlight, out of the trailers, and the idea behind that, I don't think he's perfect at it, but I appreciate that he's at least trying to do that with his films, because, like you guys, I remember before the internet, you look at the trailer for a movie like Alien, and you just see, like, an egg hatching and a couple, like, brief glimpses of other things, and you don't see the alien, same with, like, a movie like Gremlins. Like, you had to go to the movies to actually see this stuff. Now everyone's just wants to see everything now. And so, I do like that Skull Island doesn't seem like it spoiled all of the creatures on Skull Island. We've seen glimpses of a giant octopus, which is,
That's a cool throwback.
Yeah, for sure. And, and like the spider and things like that. I think the only one that I feel like I've seen a lot of is the skull crawler. Everything else, I think, they give us a little glimpse in the trailer here and there, but they don't tell us much about it. Same with like Godzilla 2014. I don't think the Mutos showed up in any of the trailers.
Yeah, they didn't. I don't think so. Yeah, just this thought that there was another creature, but kind of left some mystery, which I appreciate. But like you said about older movies, when you see the trailers, they show sometimes very little, or what they show may not be as exciting as modern trailers try to make the film out to be. In fact, some modern trailers make the films better than they really are. And but titles of films too. I go back to Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. Well, right there in the title, there's your plot, and there's your villain, and when he's revealed, there's really no surprise. Maybe the surprise was that it's the same actor from the original series, but the reveal wasn't a shock to us, and J.J. Abrams, of course, tried to keep the fact that it was Khan, I guess, in Into Darkness, somewhat.
Oh yeah, he did. He just straight up lied.
Yeah.
Well, what choice do they have now? All the trailers are like 3 minutes long. They show you all the like. Sometimes I feel like you watch a movie trailer and you've seen the entire movie.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
But actually, and ironically, Japan is the worst for this. They will show everything in a trailer, even like the ending scenes. The Heisei trailers, if you guys ever watched that, like they think about Godzilla versus Biollante, like literally they revealed Biolante's second form in the trailer, So there was no guesswork about it.
My
I mean, that could
favorite
have
is,
been kind of the cool thing.
Godzilla versus Destroya. The trailer literally begins with
Godzilla died.
Yeah, with the words "Godzilla dies" in big text.
Yeah, that was a whole marketing for that movie.
Yeah.
Was, hey, Godzilla's gonna die. But yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for like TV shows and movies is people posting, like your friends and your family, people that you know on social media posting like actual spoilers to the movie. Hey, I love this part of the movie when such and such dies, and you're like, dude, I haven't even seen it. It's been out for like 2 hours. Thanks.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff that drives me crazy.
Yeah, and what we do know so far about this film, we see that Skull Island seems to be populated with creatures. One thing about the shooting of it, it looks like there's quite a bit of broad daylight, monster shots, which a lot of some of these films try to obscure the visual effect in dust and rain and whatever else they can throw at the camera so it doesn't look maybe so fakeish, so CGI-ish. Yeah. And it seems like in this one, they're just saying, no, sometimes we're going to have that, where we're going to see just Kong just laid out and roaring at the camera and throwing trees at choppers and things like that. So I think so far I'm liking what I see out of the trailers. What do you think?
I'm excited. I'm trying not to go in too hyped. Mainly because I don't want to be disappointed. Like, I walked out of Godzilla 2014 was such a weird experience. I was sort of overly hyped for it, and I went and saw it with my family, and I felt like they were all watching me to see if I liked it. They all liked it, but they were really like paying attention to if I liked it or not, because I'm the Godzilla fan. So I'm just trying to go into Kong with minimal expectations, kind of preparing for the worst, and just in case the worst happens, and hoping for the best, and not knowing much about it, so that way I can kind of watch it with an open mind. I think that's the best way to approach it, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat. I feel positive about it. I feel like it might not be the best movie in the world, maybe. I mean, I don't know. But I feel like it'll at least be a good time. And, I mean, I don't know. I guess this is controversial with both Godzilla and Kong fans, but I'm glad that they're going to be together again. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for each camp to feel that way, but I mean, as a fan of both, and as a fan of the original '62 movie, I'm happy. And it's so weird that even within like this fandom, you have people like, King Kong's too small. How are they gonna fight? I don't get it. Like, almost like, guys, we've seen it before.
Yeah.
Like, almost like it's never happened before.
Yeah, it can work. It absolutely can. And I want to come back to King Kong versus Godzilla, the new one we're going to get in a minute. But tell me what you think about so far what we see in the cast of Skull Island.
It's a great cast. I mean,
the cast is amazing. And I mean, I don't know if you guys or any of your viewers are just big movie watchers, not just like genre stuff. But I mean, I know a lot of the like supporting cast just from different TV shows and different character roles over the years. Like, first of all, Brie Larson, Samuel L. Jackson, John Goodman, Tom Hiddleston. I guess that's like your big four in the cast, who are all amazing. And I mean, I've been familiar with them all of them for years, and so there's that. But then I don't quite remember either actor's name, but the actors that played Dr. Dre and Eazy-E in Straight Outta Compton, who were great in that film, they're both in it. Shea Wiggum, who I guarantee you, if you don't know who that is and you brought up IMDb and looked at his picture, you'd be like, oh, it's that guy. But he's been on like Boardwalk Empire. He was in Wolf of Wall Street, a great character actor. Toby Kebbell, who I guess most people would probably know as Koba in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. And I guess he was Dr. Doom in the last Fantastic Four. If that means anything to anybody, which it shouldn't. But,
probably not.
But no, I mean, I've seen him in a lot of stuff. He's a great actor. It really is a wonderful cast from top to bottom. Like they really knocked it out. And I mean we're used to people that we like or maybe don't like, but regardless, people that are big names being in these big American versions. I mean, you had Jack Black, Naomi Watts in Kong 05. I mean, you had Bryan Cranston, Elizabeth Olsen, and G14, and even G98. I mean, Matthew Broderick was popular and well-liked. Jean Reno, who's still like the best thing about that movie. I mean, but even compared to those, I think this is probably the best cast out of any of the big, I guess, U.S. giant monster movies. Probably, I guess, since they started doing them again in '98. I mean, it really is incredible cast.
Yeah, Matt.
So I feel, and John C. Reilly, who again, I love John C. Reilly, but I don't know how I feel about his parts in the trailer just yet. I'll have to see how he fits into the movie, but yeah, and you know, I mean, we're talking about keeping our expectations tempered, which is the right attitude. But in my mind, I would like to say, like, how did they get all these amazing people together? You know, and the real answer is money. Anytime you're dealing with a movie, but I mean, I would like to think, you know, there was something really special in the script that they really clung to.
Yeah, and I was actually going to go. Yeah, let's go back to King Kong versus Godzilla. The future of this franchise, kind of what is now being called the MonsterVerse, getting a lot of these crossovers of these American monster films, not American monsters, but American monster films, and to get them all kind of in the same place together, kind of like with the MCU. That the fact is that these are going to be versus films, and I gotta say this, and maybe you guys can throw one out there. Can you tell me another versus film out there that has really worked well, other than everything Godzilla has done in Japan? Everything, even King Kong versus Godzilla, Godzilla versus Mothra, these kinds of crossovers that happen, that just really has worked really well in the Godzilla franchise, even adding King Kong into it. But can you think of another crossover, a versus film that just really works? I can't think of one.
Freddy versus Jason.
No,
it's
terrible.
I like that movie.
Oh, it's awful.
No, I was gonna say I think there's a controversial statement to be made here. Because I also like Freddy vs. Jason. I know, like, no one likes it, though.
That's bizarre to me. That movie is just a romping good time. Like, it doesn't take itself too seriously. It has a storyline that works well for both characters that actually makes sense within the mythos. And tons of people die, which is the point for both characters. So, like, what's not to love, in my opinion? I mean, it's campy and stupid, but that's what you're there for.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just hold those franchises to, I don't want to say a low standard, but it's kind of like, aside from like the first Nightmare, maybe Nightmare 3 and New Nightmare, like, I feel like anytime I'm watching any of those, I'm kind of like setting myself up for just to get into like a stupid universe. But but no, Nick, other than that, which, you know, you say there's none. I say Freddy versus Jason, that's fine. But other than that, I mean, like, I thought both Alien versus Predators have been awful.
Terrible. Yeah.
I was very disappointed because I was I love the comic books and you know, I think they made some video games too, whatever. But that was kind of a match made in heaven. Yeah, the comic books. Yeah, everything was better than the films.
Happen. Yeah, no, that should never happen. Jeez, I'm trying to think of what else there might be. The Universal stuff, like, here's the thing about Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, is that I actually think it's a pretty good, like, Wolfman movie, and it's a pretty good Universal monster movie, but the Frankenstein meets part is, like, it's the worst. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's literally like the Wolfman jumps off of like a a platform onto Frankenstein's monster, and they like both get like washed away in a flood, and that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
So it works. It works as a Universal monster movie, but as a versus movie, it's awful. I mean, yeah. I mean, unless we're gonna count some of the MCU stuff, which isn't. I mean, they're crossovers, but it's not really like a versus thing. Yeah, there really haven't been any. Yeah. It doesn't seem to happen a lot. I don't know why, really. There's like Alien versus Predator should be easy, and I think like, I mean, I feel like even if the quality of the movie is going to be, you know, something we'll have to wait and see, but I at least feel like the people at Legendary understand what people want out of a versus movie. Where I think like you look at like Alien versus Predator, and I mean, that was around the time where, like, every big movie to come out of Fox was just, like, mishandled and misguided and, you know, made by people that really didn't seem to care. You know, I mean, it's very easy for all of us to sit around and be very skeptical about, you know, big Hollywood productions, and rightfully so. But you have to remember, like, Thomas Tull at Legendary, he's the guy that... You know, he wanted to do King Kong vs. Godzilla. Once he got to Universal, he was like, hey, I want to do King Kong and bring it over to Godzilla. And Universal said, no, we're not going to, like, cooperate with another studio's franchise. That's where most producers would just throw their hands up and be like, I tried, whatever. But he was like, well, how about, you know, we you know, just pay you for the rights to use King Kong, and I'll just bring the whole production over to another studio. Like, that's something that has to be admired. You know, no producer in their right mind would have done that, you know, unless it was someone that really cared and really wanted to make it happen.
Yeah, instead of just doing a cash-in, which it sounds like a lot of when you were talking about the everything that was happening with all the lawsuits and countersuits that went into that 76 production, and before that, it sounded a lot like it wasn't that too many people actually had some love and affection for the character and to make a franchise, to make a work of art, that it was, I want to cash in on this somehow. Maybe you could say Dino De Laurentiis believed in it because he did put a lot of money of his own into it to make the production, but at the same time he also still probably wanted to make a buck off of it. And at the same time, Universal's over here saying, no, we own the rights. So you're going to pay us royalties, and then the O'Brien family saying, no, we own him, and you're going to pay us royalties. It seems like, you know, it took something to prompt all of these parties to come forward and say, I want to cash in on this. I need to make some money off of this because of, again, the intellectual rights were so convoluted. And it's even reached into Godzilla with our infamous Godzilla 1985 that we will probably never see ever.
Yeah, nobody knows. Yeah. Like nobody knows what's going on with that movie. It's like people own different pieces of it and stuff.
Yeah, and I mean it's easy for fans to be super critical of that, but it's like, you know, if you're smart, you want to make sure all the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted, you know, or else you're gonna get sued by somebody.
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, I think that unfortunately does make for some really bad films out there that we've had when they've gotten caught up into legal battles, and why the Legendary Godzilla, I remember something coming out about that almost immediately about two people that needed to be taken out of the crew and paid up, whatever, get this get this legal trouble out of the way so we can make this movie, pay whatever you need to do, whatever it was that needed to happen. But yeah, that worried me right from the start, that was happening, that this is going to affect the film, even though people might say, oh no, what does that have to do with it? There's something to be said about that. We've had several examples of films, Highlander 2, one of the worst ones out there that comes to mind, that was just wrangled up in issues with people, everyone saying, I own this, I own that, I want you to do this. I'm not a creative person, but I want you to do this. Add in aliens somehow to this. Because aliens are cool.
Yeah, that happens all the time, and you feel for the directors and the writers who they have to like kind of just bow to the whims of the people in charge of the studio, and it's like, hey, you want to come to work tomorrow? You better write a scene where Superman fights a giant spider. It's like, what do you do with that?
So do you guys think that the versus film Godzilla and Kong, are they going to fight or are they going to team up? Because I think they're going to team up personally against something else. I don't know what that something else will be, but they'll probably fight, have a draw of some kind, and then have to team up against the other monster.
I think that's probably what we're in for. I feel like Thomas Tull might have said something that kind of hinted in that direction, but the thing about the 62 movie, and I'm going to go out and say it, and the fanboys or whatever can get as mad as they want, they can jump up and down, scream as much as they want, but Kong won in the 62 movie for several reasons. One was everyone at Toho's admiration for the character, because it's like, I mean, if I make my own character and get a chance to like have him fight Batman, I'm gonna have Batman win. You know, that's just common sense. But secondly, you know, Kong was the bigger draw at the time. Kong was the bigger star, you know, because of the 33 movie being such a classic, and you know, Godzilla was a character in a franchise that was still in its infancy. But now both of them, over the years, have kind of caught up to each other, and both being these huge cultural icons with their own very dedicated fan bases. And I feel like the only way to make people happy, and as many people as possible happy, which is the target audience. The target audience for these movies isn't us, it's the common moviegoer. The only way to make people happy, I think, in the end of the day, would be to do something like a draw.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, we know Legendary has the rights to Rodan, Mothra, and King Ghidorah. And if they're all in there, I mean, Godzilla's going to need some help.
I'm hoping it's King Ghidorah, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
I have a hard time thinking about Legendary coming up with a monster that's as iconic as Ghidorah to fight both Kong and Godzilla at the same time. I mean, I'm sure it could be done, but
Ghidorah is the ultimate big bad, you know. I mean, if you're gonna take down Ghidorah, you need some backup, and especially like I feel like Rodan, Mothra, and Ghidorah, maybe they're all in the next Godzilla. Who knows, really? But I feel like that's almost too much to cram into Godzilla 2. So I mean, if the next one is like, if someone like got drunk and called me and was like, Kyle, you're in charge of Godzilla 2. What are you gonna do? Like, I would say like, okay, maybe the next one's like Rodan and Mothra, and then you build up to Ghidorah, and then you know, that's when you can have a team up of sorts.
Yeah, so it could be. Yeah, there's so many possibilities, but I think with the populist idea that, you know, the last Godzilla ended with, you know, kind of on that high note that he's our friend, he's the savior of the earth, ? That maybe that is the direction that we might go, especially, like, I don't know if you guys felt let down. A lot of people did, by the fact that the trailers portrayed one kind of monster and the other, when the film came out, we got a different kind.
Oh,
so.
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the trailers definitely made it out to be a more somber, serious movie, and what we got was really more in the tradition of, you know, American B movies, which is fine, and I like that about the movie. But yeah, the marketing was definitely not
leading.
right. But yeah, no, I mean that's a great point, Nick. Is that this Godzilla he's not necessarily a superhero like he is in like Godzilla vs. Megalon, but he's not like the bad guy either. You know, he's just kind of, I guess, to use the cliche phrase, a force of nature. And I mean, this Godzilla is kind of like, he's kind of an unbiased force that exists to kind of keep balance in nature. And so, you know, I think that it would be odd to have Kong, who is said to not necessarily be a villain either, which is proper. And Godzilla, who this version isn't really a bad guy either, to pit them against each other would feel kind of strange. So I feel like some sort of team up might be necessary. I would like it if it's the kind of team up like we're like, I don't know, this is just fantasy me talking, but like, say they defeat whatever threat and then they just go back to fighting each other and then like
that would be awesome. Yeah.
Like that's the kind of thing that I think I would like.
Yeah, maybe it'd be an unspoken kind of thing that they look at each other and then just turn around and go their separate ways. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, but that's the thing. They are what they are. They are creatures and they're territorial, and so they might just have to fight. But you're right. It could be very interesting, and it might stretch the creativity and people's suspension of disbelief to buy.
Well, I think with Kong being a gorilla, he might have a better he might actually be able to rationalize like, oh, this thing helped me, so I'll leave him alone. Where Godzilla's just he's more of a dummy.
Especially if you watch the '62 American version of King Kong versus Godzilla, it's got a brain that's that big.
I've already done a news show on Godzilla's brain. It is all over the place when it comes to the theories about his brain, whether he has 1, 2, size of a marble. Is he like a dinosaur? If you go to Jurassic Park, even though they might have small brains, they still are somehow very intelligent. Like the Velociraptors, they're always, thinking creatures.
Opening doors and stuff.
Yeah, talking to each other. I wonder if the new Godzilla will have speech bubbles, like in the Gigan, Japanese version. Man. Yeah.
If speech bubbles happen, Legendary screwed up somewhere, because that's just not.
Hey man, I'll enjoy the speech bubbles on my own. Then
I was gonna say some of the Godzilla fans.
I would just love to see the reaction on people's faces.
Yeah, it'll be all the Godzilla fans in the audience shaking their friends and girlfriends, saying, "Oh, you know what that's from?" Geeking out completely, and so we'll just have to kind of wait and see, I guess, and maybe after the film Skull Island comes out, maybe we can do a recap on what our thoughts are, maybe a non-spoiler or a spoiler-full review after we get to see the premiere coming up here soon. So, last thoughts on anything Kong-related that we want to get out there, or do you think we've said it all?
Covered quite a bit. I mean, I can't really to add.
We really did. I mean, with Kong like Godzilla, it's like you can never run out of things to say. And I mean, the not even just the 33 movie. You go do your homework on that, and I mean, you'll learn so much. I mean, I would just urge people like Kong 33 and King Kong versus Godzilla and Kong 76, especially. All three of those movies, just where they came from and how and why they turned out the way they did, for better or worse, is fascinating stuff. And I mean, there's great books out there, great articles. You can listen to the Kaiju Transmissions podcast, plug, and we'll cover all that stuff. And I mean, really, Kong is a beloved character and franchise, and rightfully so. And you never run out of stuff to say about Kong. And hopefully people who've been engaged in this conversation will, maybe get an itch to say, I really don't know as much about Kong as I do Godzilla or Gamera or whatever. If that's the case, man, go read up on it, because I mean, Kong's an icon. He's not going anywhere, and a lot of good movies and a lot of good making of movie stories. Even like 76, which is a movie that I don't think turned out well, but the making of it is fascinating. And if you're into movie making and stuff, I mean, you owe it to yourself to check out Kong.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Also a ton of Kong ripoffs, by the way. So like if you're in the mood to gouge your eyes out, Queen Kong,
Oh.
Konga, Mighty Peking Man. Mighty Peking Man is my favorite of the ripoffs. That's just a really fun movie. It's bizarre, but it's fun. But Queen Kong, if you like, that movie's
Queen
terrible.
Kong's bad.
It's really bad.
Sounds bad.
Konga and Mighty Peking Man are the two I would tell people to watch.
Okay.
Oh, if you wanna track down the Bangladesh version of King Kong that was released like apparently a couple years ago, that is like a musical that's 3 hours long.
What?
It exists on YouTube. Yeah, it exists.
It looks like someone's home movie too, because it's made in like a third world country, but it looks insane.
Yeah, there's like a 10-minute preview or something on YouTube, and there's like people talk about cardboard miniatures. Well, those actually exist in this movie.
Yeah.
Check it out.
This was made in
Interesting.
2010, by the way.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, it sounds almost interesting enough to look up. But that being said, I would say definitely I'm going to plug your podcast too for everyone out there to check it out, because I was listening to just the backstory of that 76 especially. That was just very intriguing and probably in a lot of ways more interesting than the movie itself in some ways. But I think listening to that and then getting your gentleman's review on the film, it probably echoes a lot of what people probably feel. And if they disagree, that's cool too, because the fandom, we can agree, we can disagree, but at the same time we still love monster movies. That's what brought us together. We can lay a lot of the world problems aside and enjoy these films. And so what I want to make sure that everyone gets a chance to do is, if they want to find your podcast, how do they do it?
We are on iTunes. We are on Google+. TalkShoe.com is our hosting service. You can find us there. You can find us on Facebook. Kaiju Transmissions, exploring giant monsters in Japanese fantasy is what our page is called. We're on Twitter at KT_podcast. You can email us at kaijutransmissions@gmail.com if you have any film suggestions or questions, comments, positive or negative. I welcome all of it. And you can rate and review us on iTunes. Again, positive or negative. I just want I just want people to be engaged. And Nick, I thank you for saying you appreciate that we try to give a little bit of history and facts along with our reviews, because that was one of the things about this fandom is, for as much as we love these movies, so much of our conversations are limited to fan theories and what toys we just bought, and there's a lot to be said about how these movies are made, and it goes beyond saying I like miniatures in suits more than CG. And for people that are interested in filmmaking, the way these movies are put together is really fascinating stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what in my show, just as well as you are, that there is a love for these films. There is so much to be said about them. My show, I feel, in a lot of ways like yours, you don't want to limit yourself to too little. You can expand beyond, of course, Japanese monsters and look at the American icon King Kong. I have in my own show looked at the Universal monsters as well, and but I do tend to find myself going back to Japan, because that's where, for me, the monster craze kind of, got lit up in me when I saw the first, Godzilla film, 85, for me was, that thing that just ignited it in me, and then it started absorbing everything I could, going to the library, which the kids don't know about these days because everything's on Wikipedia or IMDb these days. Then you went and...
Oh yeah, man. I remember not even knowing that half of these movies existed until I walked by them in a video store.
Right.
You don't get that.
Yeah, people don't even know what video stores are, guys. They don't exist anymore.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And as far as collecting, I still love collecting the home videos, because the box art, the different versions that are out there, audio commentary, if there's anything that is available, of course. on some of the newer ones, we get some audio commentary, newer releases of these films. I just love hearing Steve Rifle and Ed Godziszewski doing their commentary, Stuart Galbraith, a lot of them that give you tons more information than what you might just be able to Google search, because some of these guys have done, exhaustive research on these things. I wish we had a little bit more in the King Kong. I love listening to the Ray Harryhausen commentary on the 33 King Kong.
Oh, yeah. And Harryhausen's something we haven't touched yet, but I mean, I feel like Harryhausen's work is so... I mean, I feel like we could do at least 4 or 5 episodes on Harryhausen easily.
Easy, yeah.
Yeah.
And, that's another thing, Godzilla fans like to kind of pick on him because he kind of turned his nose down at the tokusatsu stuff. But really, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, so much of this stuff comes from the same place. And to be so petty is silly.
Yeah, absolutely.
and the Harryhausen stuff really does play well with, the Toho stuff. The Detroit Institute of Arts did a whole summer in 2007 of double features of Toho sci-fi and Harryhausen movies on 35 millimeter, and as double features and back to back. Like you'd be surprised how it's like, this stuff isn't so different after all.
Yeah. Yeah, it's captured the imaginations of so many of us, whether it's stop motion, suitimation, CGI, dressing up lizards, putting extra fins on their back and having them wrestle around with each other in an inhumane sort of way. We love it all. So, the Harryhausens and the Godzillas and the King Kong makes up my collection, as well as the Kurosawa films, even. So it's one of those.
And Nick, do you have Steve Rifle's book?
Japan's
Favorite Monster?
No, I don't yet. I do need to get that one, but I know about it.
Okay, yeah, because there's a book written by a guy named Roy Morton on the Kong movies called King Kong: History of a Movie Icon, which is very similar. It's formatted very similar in that it takes you through each movie from like conception through release in like excruciating detail. So like that's a great resource if you want to kind of like get into the history of Kong a little more.
Yeah, I'll check that out.
And you can find it. I think it's I think it's out of print, but you can get used copies pretty cheap on Amazon.
Yeah, it's not like the Ed G's book that's infamous, Holy Grail style.
Luckily, I got that one when it came out. The one I missed out on was Guy Tucker's book, Age of the Gods, which, geez.
I've heard that's awesome as well.
If anyone has a copy they want to give me, please.
Or me either, yeah. So, there's some rare stuff out there, and it is more precious than gold to some of us to find some of these things out there, because the information, the stories, it just, lights up our world. And I think that's fantastic what you guys are doing with the podcast. And I encourage everyone to check it out, follow you guys on social media, Twitter and Facebook, and send me maybe some suggestions. Rate, like, subscribe, all of those things on iTunes that they do. And I appreciate your guys' time speaking with me on the Monster Report, and I definitely wish you well in the future, and looking forward to maybe a future episode where we can discuss a little bit more on whatever topic we want to bring up.
I mean, we'll do a follow-up on Skull Island, or I mean, whatever. I mean, just thanks for having us on. I gotta say,
thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I mean, Matt and I have only started putting these out since I think we released our first episode in June, and we don't take out sponsorships or anything. We definitely don't get paid for any of it. But you inviting us on, Kyle invited us from Kaiju Cast, invited us on there, and Norman England was nice enough to do a just incredibly candid and in-depth interview. And so people have really kind of been very eager to help us out, and I always appreciate it. And that's the thing about the community, really sticks together. And Matt, Nick, you were at G-Fest last year because I watched your panel with Ed. But
Yeah.
have you been going year after year after year?
I started going in 2014. I've always wanted to go because I live here in Indiana. Chicago is about a 6-hour drive for me, and I've always wanted to go, but just one thing or another blocked me until 2014. My wife and I decided we're going. We're going to go. And so, yeah, I started in 2014. Of course, that makes me look like I'm a bandwagon jumper. I went with the new American film. But no, I've been a Godzilla fan since I've been a kid. But, yeah, just now finally got to the conventions scene. And going to see Haru Nakajima in Indianapolis before G-Fest. He's coming to...
I might see you there, actually. Yeah, I might be there as well. I'm in Cincinnati, so I'm not too far away.
Awesome. Well, I hope to see you there. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, yeah, but my point is that overall, like, it's very easy to get discouraged if you go online and look at, message boards, Toho Kingdom, whatever. But the truth is that the fandom is very helpful and kind of sticks together, at least the good ones. And, I mean, that's something that we've been feeling with the podcast. I mean, and so, I mean, yeah, I mean... We'll come back anytime, really.
Excellent. And real quick, before we close up this episode and hit the stop button on the recording, tell us maybe a little spoiler of what's coming up next for your podcast.
Well, one thing we do have is our Godzilla Rankings Project episode. We just wrapped up the surveys. We actually got over 100 responses, and we're going to go through and basically see how people rank the films. People also told us how old they were, so I want to see, how that compares to, if you were a fan when you were in your teens, if you're in your 50s. I want to see if you like the old stuff versus the new stuff. I want to see how Shin Godzilla ends up like how high it ends up being ranked or how low it ends up being. So we're gonna be doing that pretty soon. We have a couple. We have Mother's Day, a special Mother's Day thing planned. Bert, there's a couple other things I think you had in store as well. April Fools, I think.
Yeah, we have something lined up for April Fools, which is probably the dumbest idea we've ever had, and probably won't go well, but we'll try. Matt and I are working towards getting getting a special interview, hopefully in April, and to round us out until Skull Island. Usually we're bi-weekly, but we went weekly just to kind of get into the Kong mania. So left we have we're doing obviously. So we just did the Dino De Laurentiis movies. So we left off at King Kong Lives. So coming up we'll have an episode on the Peter Jackson movie, and we also have one dedicated to all the Kong ripoffs. Like Konga and Mighty Peking Man and Ape.
That's a great episode. Yeah.
Another thing that's kind of splintered in the fandom is Power Rangers.
Yeah.
Which we're by no means experts or diehards, but we grew up watching the original run, and as many people know, there's also a Hollywood Power Rangers coming out. So we're gonna do a couple episodes to lead up to that, and then. We have something like 5 or 6 more episodes just stored for later. I mean, we pretty much have our schedule worked out until like summer, probably, really. Awesome. But yeah, I mean, we really try to cover a lot. Also, we're Mystery Science Theater, a little bit of a divisive topic in this fandom, but as fans, we're excited about the new season, and so we want to do something to kind of celebrate MST a little bit. So yeah, I mean, that's all stuff that I think people can look forward to, and we're definitely looking forward to recording them because we have a really good time when we do it. So
excellent, very good, and I very much appreciate your time on this. And yeah, go ahead. Sorry to cut you off.
I was just gonna say, I guess officially, according to Facebook and Twitter, the Godzilla ranking polls are closed. But if anyone wants to do it, I mean, we'll accept surveys if people still want to do them. I guess we will, right, Matt?
Yeah, we'll accept them. Of course.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a fun thing to go through and be like, do you like this or this more? And I mean, if anyone out there still wants to do it, be our guest and still submit them.
There's some surprises in the rankings already, by the way. There's some things I was not quite expecting. So.
Yeah, that should be interesting to see that how that all plays out. All that data that was collected from 100+ people, right? That took that survey.
Right.
Yeah. So that's going to be very interesting to see how that all plays out. I think we'll see some surprises, and it sounds like from the way you're describing it, we will. And that's awesome.
Yeah, there's some definite surprises. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, and then there'll probably be a few people just jumping up and down saying, "What?" But
oh yeah.
But we will see.
Based on one thing that I already know, I'll probably be one of those people.
Okay. Well, we'll look forward to seeing that, hearing that in your podcast, and many other great things coming from you guys from the Kaiju Transmissions. And so I'd like to thank my guests, Kyle and Matt, for being on the Monster Report, and we're looking forward to seeing what you come up with next, and seeing Skull Island here in the very near future. So for me, Nick Adam Pulling, this has been another episode of the Monster Report. We will catch you guys next time.